As a vast human empire spanning across the northern region spreading into the south, genocide and sheer brutality of the orcs and goblins times make them fight back in this game called Orcs and Men. Of Orcs and Men. The game has a pretty awesome twist on most fantasy settings, being that traffic makes it really loud. Bear me. The setting is kind of different to most fantasy games, picturing orcs, goblins, and all those green-skinned filth as the bastard sons who should be slain. In this game, it's pretty awesome that you get to see it from a different perspective, as the orcs struggle to try and regain their freedom and their sort of rights to live as an independent race. This game has sheer brutality in it. You see people, you see genocide, you see just mass murder, which is what genocide is. You see people being tortured. There's even this really awesome segment, I don't want to do any spoilers, but there's this moment where this guy is chained to a bench and you release like this crazed goblin in a cage, and you sort of walk away with this goblin like about to rip this guy's shit up, and I was like, dude, this game is fucking brutal. Into the cool mechanics of the game now, the battle is it starts off pretty simplistic. You kind of think to yourself, it could be a little bit more fluid, it could be a bit more fast paced and actiony. But once you get to your bearings of it, the game is absolutely stellar. Bad thing is kind of there is no mage class, so there's no things to heal you or do big area of effect damage during battles. There's a game around this, you got a few skills between Styx, the goblin, and Arkai, the orc who you play as. And you have to really try and do a little battle plan beforehand. You can either go around and assassinate a few more dudes before you get into the big conflict, to try and limit the numbers. You also have a thing called Goblin Throw. It's pretty much where Arkai picks up sticks and just lobs them at a guy, especially if this guy's on high ground with crossbows, or there's goblins slinging shit at you. I don't know if they do sling shit, that's just what it looks like. And that also gives then Styx the advantage above ground to start throwing daggers and doing abilities from up there to aid you in the bottom. Also with Arkai, you've got to be careful, because within that you have to sort of micromanage Arkai's rage. Now rage is awesome because it makes him go absolutely berserk and swings his fucking weapon in any direction whatsoever. Meaning if you are on the ground with Styx and Arkai together, and if he goes into rage mode, get Styx out of there, because he will just hit anything in his way. Completely berserk. It's not a good idea to hit rage mode, you gotta have to keep it level. But if you're near the end and you're fighting like, you're surrounded by like 15 to 20 goblins, you battle down your rage, you take out the big mass of the goblins, and if you do manage to hit rage, it's an awesome little showdown at the end with him just swinging his weapon, beating the shit out of all the minor enemies. So rage can work in your favor, but it also can be unbelievably like, oh god, because after that, if there's still a lot of yous around, Arkai pretty much uses all of his energy. He has to rest for about 5 to 10 seconds, obviously giving people a window open to start doing some damage towards him back. So you've got to be very careful with the rage ability or mechanic. Alright, into the trading system. The game features no loot, and I know if games now like Torchlight 2, Diablo 3, Borderlands 2 are coming out, people are like, we want loot, man, where is that gold? But it does have a pretty awesome trade system. Like, there is no money because you're orcs and you're over in like this slum districts and stuff, so you trade in, say, weapons, items, armor, things in general, to earn trade points, which then uses as currency to bring back. So it's not like a straight swap. You sort of get points to level up and then to upgrade your items further on. Excuse me. Difficulty with the combat, which I'll dive into that for a bit. Combat actually is pretty difficult. There are segments where you're forced into combat, like, so you can plan around it first by taking out a few dudes and then hitting the core few straight away. The first example is that when you meet this orc shaman, or shaman if you're American for some reason. And his sheer brutality, you have to really focus on about Arkai and his rage for sure, because you're fighting a couple of orcs as well as a bunch of goblins. So you have to try and make him the dominant figure, try and use whatever you can to aid him, have sticks from hitting people in the background. Of course you can do some healing items, they're not really like mass heal. They're very short, brief, trying to give you that little bit of edge. So it makes all the battles seem incredibly tense, and you're going to fail a few times when you try it, because I'm playing on normal difficulty. Pardon me. Playing on normal difficulty, and still I come to the moments where I have to redo it about, I think I have to redo one segment about 8 times just to get past it. But it's still quite rewarding and fun while in combat, and once you have finished. It becomes there's much more depth than you first realised in the game. Characters do seem a little bit cardboard at first, very bland. There are some bad voice acting in it, and with the goblins, some bad animations. You'll get that if you play the game. But after a while, the lore and the background of things come very heavily into play, because goblins, try not to spoil anything with you guys again, goblins are just animals, to be honest with you. They're just mindless drones. They know nothing apart from killing, eating and living kind of thing. There's no intelligence. Apart from sticks, an exception or a cause, try not to spoil anything. Because he's the only goblin which has intelligence, you know, he can talk to other people, he can trade, he can do combat quite well. He does have signs of intelligence, which is pretty awesome. Same with the orcs, they have quite a nice little bit of lore and quite a solid background of being one with Earth, or Mother Earth as they call it. There comes into play with things like the shaman as well, where you can sense the dead. This guy, the shaman who you meet early on, this isn't a spoiler, it's quite crazy, so it kind of plays against his favourite bit, so you end up having to take him down a notch, let's say. But the whole lore of being one with Mother Earth and things like that, and your orc brethrens, it becomes really nicely into play. I'm standing up, my legs are getting wobbly, so I might be just moving a bit too much now. There's also some pretty nice twists in the game, things that I wasn't really quite expecting, which does play into quite nicely, especially there's some segments where the audio kicks in, the music gives you a sense of atmosphere and into what you have just done, kind of thing. There's quite a good backstory. The kind of backstory, the main plot of the game is obviously with the human empire coming in from the north and trying to fight for your orcs' freedom. There's moments of slavery, like I said before, genocide, which is pretty brutal at times. I've never really been like, geez, about it before. But fantasy's always been a game, a genre or a setting that I have really loved. Normally, as a Dwarven fan, I'm like, filter green skins. But I am enjoying this. It's really good. Back into the main plot now. Try not to spoil anything. Let's just say there are elves and dwarfs in the game, and there is a meeting in progress where the humans from the north are trying to side or gain elven and dwarven allies to help out with taking down the rest of the resistance from the orcs. So that plays in quite nicely. There are a few humans that sort of don't agree with that and want peace and want the orcs to carry on going. It's quite an in-depth, I wouldn't say it's really in-depth, but it does have quite a solid story and background, which is the main thing which you kind of want from any game, to be honest with you. So that pretty much wraps it up. Orcs and Men is a really fun game, and it is one of those games which is going to be very under the radar, and that's kind of a sad thing nowadays. Things like Torchlight 2 and like Diablo, even Elder Scrolls, because they got new DLC coming out, like an expansion pack. You'll hear loads about those games, and with their fantasy background, you know, going back to like Arena, Daggerfell, the ones between the Elder Scrolls series, they do have a very higher up edge on the media take. Though this game may seem a bit clunky and a bit flat at times, especially with characters and settings, it does really warrant some need of press. I know there is quite a good community and following of it, which is very nice to see, but this game will be worthy of another one based in that universe, I believe. And I'm going to go back and play a second playthrough very shortly. Thing with the mission structure, I will say, they do seem incredibly linear. There are quite a few side quests that kind of affect the story and bits of dialogue which changes depending on what you do, which is nice. Plus there's a few, I wouldn't call them mini games, but there are, yeah, let's call them mini games for now. There are a few mini games, say when you're in the first camp, you can either carry on doing your mission stuff or you can challenge different people to like a duel for it's based around tradition of this people's group, let's say. So you do have some extra things to do, especially when you walk around the camp and things like that. There's not really to the extent of say The Witcher did with like poker, you got arm wrestlings and things like that, and bar fights. Not really to that caliber or side things to do. Though it is something quite nice to pace the story if you do want pacing, though to me, I just wanted to carry on, that was awesome. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Only bad really things, like I said, there's no real mage class. There is magic in the game, sort of like magic, like the Inquisition sort of has a few magical abilities and things like that, but being greenskins, you're pretty much just a slimy rogue character which does develop quite a nice sense of the area and becomes quite a nice character. And also you have the warrior, the tank, Arco the Orc, which is fighting for his brothers, to be free, I'm going to call them brethren. Still going to be right in that retrospect, but of Orcs and Men, stellar game. It's going to be on Steam's Christmas sales soon, so I would definitely advise picking it up for the Christmas sales. Wait for it till it's on a daily sale, so you can get a little bit less, but if it doesn't come up on a daily, 25% off or even 15% off would be worth it. £30 price tag if you love fantasy and if you are definitely a fan of orcs. I'm a dwarven player, so orcs were never really my forte of niceness. I kind of froth up the mouse, thump my ale on the floor, pick up my axe and throw it in their faces kind of things. Though this game has made me definitely think, orcs are kind of cool. I always thought orcs are kind of cool, but this game kind of gave you that different aspect, like their point of view onto the world. And it did change the way of thinking of my mind ever so slightly. Like I said, currently it's £30, so that's going to be like what, $35 to $40, and about 35 euros, roughly 36. You can find it cheaper anyway, that is awesome. Like I said, if you love fantasy, worth picking up anyway, to be honest with you, it's really good. Combat, the old hotkey system, so you actually have to plan, and it can be pretty challenging like I've mentioned before. That's pretty much it. Of Orcs and Men, out now on 360, I believe PS3 as well, and of course PC, because I'm playing it on PC, why wouldn't you? I have been Carpus. I hope you liked this brief analysis. Not really much of a review, more of an analysis of the game, and I hope for you at least to try the game. I don't know if there is a demo, I didn't actually quite look, but if you can play it or borrow it, or definitely buy it up cheap if you have the money to, or other means, then it is definitely a game worth playing. Either way, I've been Carpus. I hope you enjoyed this brief talk of Orcs and Men. I might do a few videos of it to come. I hope you enjoyed.